My first stomping grounds, when I first started being a comedian, I started down there. You know, the gay audience is my best. They were great. They laughed at everything. They got it.
Why
they were supportive.
Right? They had a vision of how do we create community and create a space where we are welcome.
Welcome back to AllStarBuzz. Thank you for joining us. Before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers. Now, let's begin.
How do you keep it fresh? I mean, there's a lot of pressure. You got to be tuned in every day.
Yeah.
How do you keep it fresh?
Well, I think that the concept of the show is inherently fresh because every day it's about what's in the newspapers.
I mean for you.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, how do you get up every morning and deliver the goods the way you need to?
People often ask me, you know, what kind of research do we do? But I don't need to research exactly the way you would if you were writing a theme paper.
Today, we dive into a moment that shook the world of daytime television. A moment so charged, so unexpected, that it reminded everyone just how thin the line can be between success and scandal. It all starts with a woman who built her career on honesty, humor, and bold opinions, Joy Behar. Joy, a veteran of the stage and screen, had spent decades crafting a career defined by fearless commentary and razor-sharp wit. From the very beginning, she was never afraid to speak her mind, even when it put her in the line of fire.
Because I didn't want to scare the man. You don't scare them when you're a woman comedian and you get up there with a microphone and you're, you know, got all that power. You don't want to scare them. There he is. See, we fool around. We carry on. He's looking at the computer and I'm giving him the horns.
But I also like how you said...
That was at the wedding.
That was at the wedding, by the way?
That's our wedding shot.
That's classic. But also how you say that how you look at each other, how you see each other.
He sees Angelina Jolie, I see Brad Pitt.
Joy often reminisces about her early days as a comedian, where she first found her voice in the buzzing neighborhoods of New York City. She wasn't just playing clubs, she was testing the limits of free speech and connection. Performing for gay audiences who embraced her sharp humor with open arms, she quickly learned that being authentic was her greatest weapon. They laughed with her, not just because she was funny, but because she was real, no filters, no hesitation. That early support taught Joy something critical. People appreciate the truth, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable. And that lesson stayed with her as she transitioned into daytime television, bringing her unfiltered self to millions of homes across the country. Williamsburg, Brooklyn, shaped her grit. The comedy clubs shaped her voice. And daytime television gave her the stage to amplify it.
And then I used to lose my voice, like asking for things. I was a little shy.
Wow.
Yeah, but then 20 years of therapy. And, you know.
Speaking of therapy, then tell me, what is the greatest lesson that The View has given you throughout all these years, would you say?
The greatest lesson?
Yeah, the greatest lesson for yourself.
Oh my goodness. Give me an example of what a lesson might be.
Well, what has it taught you? You've been on the show for all these years. What have you learned about yourself being on the show?
But what Joy couldn't have predicted was that one day, this very authenticity would place her and her colleagues in the center of a firestorm that threatened to destroy everything they had built. She had weathered countless controversies, heated debates, and public disagreements. Yet, despite all the battles fought on air, nothing could prepare Joy for the storm that was quietly brewing behind the scenes. A storm tied not to politics or celebrity gossip, but to a lawsuit so enormous that it would rock the foundation of the show itself. What started as another lively segment on brand management would soon spiral into a legal nightmare involving a $100 million lawsuit, a colleague's shocking flight from the country, and the darkest chapter Joy had ever faced on set. And it all began with a few simple words that would change everything. What unfolded next blindsided everyone. During what seemed like just another lively discussion, the panel turned its attention to the world of celebrity philanthropy.
My first stomping grounds, when I first started being a comedian, I started down there. You know, the gay audience is my best. They were great. They laughed at everything. They got it.
Why did they get you?
They were supportive. Why did they get me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
They just got you.
They did. They did.
And when you came here, well, tell folks, you were born and raised where?
Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
It was familiar ground, the kind of conversation they had navigated hundreds of times before. But this time, something was different. Sunny Hostin, known for her sharp insights and fearless commentary, made remarks about Melania Trump's charitable activities. Her tone was analytical, even measured, but her words hinted at skepticism, suggesting that some high-profile philanthropic claims might not stand up to deeper scrutiny. No one on set that day could have imagined the consequences that would follow. Within hours, the news exploded. Melania Trump's legal team filed a lawsuit demanding $100 million in damages against Sunny. The scale of it was staggering, beyond anything the show had ever faced. It wasn't a tabloid scandal or a social media spat. This was a direct, legal threat of enormous magnitude. Panic set in quickly. Network executives scrambled behind closed doors. Colleagues bombarded Joy with texts and calls, asking if she was okay, asking what would happen next. The lawsuit didn't just target Sunny, it cast a dark cloud over the entire production.
That's where your mom's father lived.
What?
Your grandfather, Vincenzo, was born at number 8.
What?
Got
They
to
were
go.
living across the street?
The families were living across the street from each other. I mean, just across the
I
street.
mean, it's almost incestuous what we're talking about.
And at the center of it all stood Joy, trying to process the surreal reality that an ordinary day at work had just turned into the beginning of the biggest crisis in the show's history. The ripple effects were only just beginning, and the worst was yet to come. As the news cycle spun out of control, Sunny Hostin made a decision that stunned everyone. She fled the country. It wasn't a quiet vacation or a short break to regroup. It was a full-scale retreat, a desperate move to escape the growing legal chaos surrounding her name. Overnight, the show was left reeling. The once tightly knit panel of co-hosts now had an empty seat, and the absence was impossible to ignore. For Joy Behar, Sunny's flight was a gut punch. She had sat beside Sunny for years, debating politics, laughing at absurdities, building the kind of bond that only comes from surviving countless live broadcasts together. Now, that partnership had been shattered without warning. Joy wasn't just facing a logistical nightmare, she was dealing with the emotional fallout of losing a trusted friend and co-host during the show's most precarious moment. Behind the scenes, the tension was suffocating. Producers whispered in hallways, legal teams loomed over every conversation, and no one knew what would happen next. Outwardly, the show tried to maintain its cheerful facade, but inside, everyone felt the gravity of the situation. The camaraderie that once made the show feel vibrant had been replaced by a growing sense of fear and unease. Joy found herself asking the same haunting question every day. Would the show even survive this storm? From the moment the lawsuit was filed, the network executives moved into full crisis mode. Fear seeped into every corner of the production. It wasn't just about Sunny anymore, the entire show was at risk. Executives feared that if the lawsuit expanded, the network itself could be pulled into the legal battle, costing them not just money, but their reputation. Joy Behar, seasoned and sharp as ever, saw the shift immediately. Meetings became colder, conversations more guarded. Executives proposed drastic changes. Every word spoken on air would need to be vetted by legal teams in advance. For a show built on spontaneity, it was like being asked to walk a tightrope blindfolded. Joy bristled at the idea. The magic of the show had always been its authenticity, the lively debates, the unexpected laughs, the raw, unfiltered emotion. Stripping that away would make them no different from a scripted PR broadcast. Yet, Joy knew they had little choice. The lawsuit wasn't a far-off threat anymore. It was right at their doorstep, powerful enough to crush everything they had built if they weren't careful. Still, even as the walls seemed to close in, Joy was determined. She knew that surrendering to fear would only guarantee defeat. She was ready to fight for the show's soul even if the battle was just beginning. As the days dragged on, the strain behind the scenes grew impossible to hide. On air, Joy Behar and the remaining hosts did their best to keep the energy alive. They swapped jokes, debated hot topics, and pretended everything was business as usual. But anyone paying close attention could feel it. The laughter didn't ring as true. The discussions didn't spark the same fire. Sunny's absence was a gaping hole at the table. Viewers noticed the change, sending letters and comments lamenting how stiff and sanitized the show had become. It was as if an invisible weight hung over every conversation, every laugh, every glance. Joy could feel it pressing down on her, too. Her instincts told her to crack a joke about the absurdity of it all, to call out the tension. But she knew better. One wrong word could ignite another firestorm. Behind the scenes, rumors spread like wildfire. Some staff members feared Sunny's personal finances would be wiped out. Others whispered that the network might be preparing to cut ties with her altogether. Through it all, Joy found herself torn between her loyalty to Sunny and her duty to keep the show afloat. It was a delicate balance, one that left her constantly walking a razor's edge between friendship and survival. The atmosphere was charged with uncertainty, and Joy knew one thing for sure. The longer Sunny stayed away, the harder it would be to bring the show and their bond back to what it once was. Weeks passed, and still, Sunny Hostin remained silent. No interviews, no clarifications, no appearances. The audience grew restless, and behind the scenes, the anxiety deepened. Joy Behar clung to hope that some resolution was on the horizon, but every day without Sunny felt heavier than the last. Then, without warning, a glimmer of life appeared. Sunny posted a serene photo on social media balcony overlooking a stunning landscape, with a simple caption thanking supporters for their kindness. There was no mention of the lawsuit, no explanation, just a quiet acknowledgement that she was still out there, somewhere, trying to find her footing. Joy felt a complex wave of emotions. Relief that Sunny was alive and safe, but unease because the real battle, the legal and emotional one, was still raging quietly in the background. Producers warned Joy not to read too much into the post, reminding her that legal teams were still working tirelessly behind the scenes. Yet for Joy, that small post was enough to rekindle a flicker of optimism. She chose to believe that Sunny wasn't giving up, that somewhere beyond the legal documents and courtroom threats, her friend was fighting to reclaim her place. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep Joy moving forward, even as the show continued under the long shadow of a $100 million lawsuit. One morning, without any grand announcement or build-up, Sunny Hostin quietly returned to the set. It wasn't a media event or a major headline, just a low-key taping meant to test the waters. The plan was simple. Have Sunny slip into the final segment of the show and gauge the audience's reaction. Joy Behar's heart raced when she saw her. It had been months since Sunny had fled the chaos, and now here she was, walking onto the set with that familiar, confident smile. Yet there was something different, a slight hesitation in her steps, as if every move was carefully measured. The audience's reaction was immediate and electric. Thunderous applause mixed with murmurs of confusion and surprise filled the studio. No one had expected her return, and their shock was palpable. Without a moment's hesitation, Joy stepped forward and embraced Sunny in front of everyone. It wasn't just a welcome back, it was a silent acknowledgement of everything they had both endured. The cameras captured the moment, but no dramatic speeches were made. Joy didn't need to say much. Her actions said it all. Against the odds, they were standing together again, ready to face whatever came next. For the first time in months, Joy allowed herself to hope that the worst was finally behind them. In the weeks that followed Sunny's quiet return, the show worked hard to reclaim its familiar rhythm. Celebrity controversies, political debates, and hot topics once again filled the airwaves. But even as things looked normal on the surface, a new, quieter tension simmered beneath every conversation. Joy Behar noticed it immediately. The once carefree banter was now laced with caution. Jokes were measured, debates carefully steered. It wasn't fear, exactly, it was awareness. Both Joy and Sunny approached their commentary with a sharper, more deliberate edge, knowing that one careless remark could unleash chaos all over again. Sunny spoke with a calm, measured tone, her legal ordeal clearly shaping every word she chose. Joy, though still quick with her wit, had a new layer of self-awareness in her humor. The stakes were simply too high to ignore. The audience sensed it too. Though the show was regaining its energy, there was a subtle shift in the air. The panel wasn't just talking anymore, they were navigating a minefield. Yet, despite the restraint, Joy felt a deep sense of pride. They had survived one of the darkest storms daytime television had ever seen. And even if things would never be exactly the same, they had proven that resilience and loyalty could still hold strong against the heaviest of blows. As life on set slowly settled into a new rhythm, Joy Behar often found herself reflecting on just how close they had come to losing everything. The lawsuit might have faded from the headlines, replaced by newer scandals, but its shadows still lingered. Every sensitive discussion, every sharp remark carried the memory of what had happened and what could happen again if they weren't careful. Behind the scenes, whispers continued. There were rumors that Melania Trump's legal team had demanded a formal apology and even a significant financial settlement. Sunny's lawyers fought back, arguing that her comments fell firmly within the protection of free speech, the very foundation on which talk shows like theirs were built. Joy suspected the truth lay somewhere between both sides. But one fact was clear. The landscape of daytime television had changed. What once felt like spirited, harmless debate was now a legal minefield, where a few poorly chosen words could trigger life-altering consequences. Through it all, Joy never wavered in her loyalty to Sunny. They had started this journey together, survived the chaos together, and now they were learning to move forward together. It wasn't just about rebuilding the show, it was about rebuilding trust, resilience, and the very spirit that had made their conversations so powerful in the first place. Months later, the day finally came when Sonny Hostin rejoined the panel for a full episode. There was no grand announcement, no over-the-top celebration, just a genuine moment of gratitude shared between the hosts and the audience. As they sidestepped directly mentioning the lawsuit, the message was still clear. They had weathered the storm and were stronger for it. For Joy Behar, seeing Sunny back at the table felt like the final piece of a long, chaotic puzzle snapping into place. The experience had changed them. Their conversations still carried humor and passion, but now they were sharpened with a new sense of responsibility. They knew that every comment could carry consequences, yet they refused to let fear silence their voices. Behind the scenes, the show moved forward with a renewed sense of caution. Producers, writers, and hosts alike understood that the world of daytime television had permanently shifted. Yet despite the new restrictions and the lingering memories of the lawsuit, Joy remained proud. They had been tested by fire and had come through bruised, yes, but unbroken. Joy often thought back to the surreal early days of the scandal, the headlines, the whispers, the fear, and marveled at how far they had come. The $100 million lawsuit hadn't crushed them. It had reminded them why they did what they did, to speak boldly, to connect honestly, and to trust in the resilience of their audience and themselves. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.